What happens when two powerhouse women in the music industry find themselves locked in a conversation no one expected? When Sabrina Carpenter walked onto the Kelly Clarkson Show that Tuesday afternoon, both she and Kelly thought it would be another breezy chat music, touring, life on the road. But what began as a light interview quickly veered into something darker, unraveling into one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime television history. The audience cheered as Sabrina stepped on stage, her practiced wave and easy smile glowing beneath the studio lights. Kelly beamed, introducing her guest with genuine warmth. Sabrina Carpenter, everybody. They settled in. Kelly leaned forward, voice brimming with excitement. Your new album is crushing it. Some of these songs are so raw, so vulnerable. How do you find the courage to share that kind of truth with the world? Sabrina's smile flickered gone almost as soon as it appeared. Most people wouldn't have noticed. Kelly did. I think as artists, honesty is part of the job, Sabrina said carefully. If something resonates with me, maybe it'll help someone else feel less alone. Kelly nodded, but there was a weight in her tone when she spoke again. That's beautiful. But some of these songs feel almost too specific, especially the one about betrayal and broken trust. It sounds like you're singing directly to someone. Was there a relationship behind that? The room shifted. A subtle tension fell over the audience. Sabrina's jaw tightened. I prefer to let the music speak for itself rather than dissect personal details. Kelly tilted her head, sensing the wall going up, and pressed anyway. Totally get that. But when you put lyrics out there about someone who promised to always be there and then left, you're inviting people to connect the dots. Don't your fans deserve to understand the real story? Sabrina's hands gripped the armrests of her chair. Her smile was gone. Kelly, I came here to talk about my music and my turn it to have my relationships psychoanalyzed on national TV. Kelly lifted her palms in mock surrender, but didn't let go. I hear you. I really do. But when your music is that personal, when it clearly comes from real pain, didn't you think your fans deserve the context? Especially with the rumors swirling about a certain high-profile relationship that ended right around the time you wrote those songs. That was the pivot point. Sabrina's back straightened. Her eyes flashed. What rumors are you referring to, Kelly? The studio fell silent. Kelly Clarkson, seasoned pro, recognized the moment for what it was, live TV gold. She leaned back, her voice smooth but deliberate. Well, there's been plenty of speculation online about your relationship with that actor. The one spotted with someone else just weeks after you two were seen together at those award shows. And the timing lines up almost perfectly with your more emotional tracks. The audience froze, whispers vanishing into heavy silence. Even the crew leaned in, realizing this was no longer just an interview, it was a confrontation. Sabrina's face went pale, but her voice cut sharp. Kelly, asterisk, I'm not sure. What you're suggesting, Kelly, Sabrina said, her tone clipped every word deliberate. But you're making some very big assumptions based on gossip columns and internet rumors. Her hands were clenched tightly in her lap now, knuckles white under the studio lights. My writing process is far more nuanced than just turning my dating life into public spectacle. Kelly gave a polite nod, but her eyes gleamed with a kind of hunger that belonged less to a supportive host and more to a hunter circling prey. Of course, she replied smoothly, and I would never want to oversimplify your artistry. But when you sing lines like she lifted her cue card, you said forever, but forever was a lie. Now I see you with her and finally know why that doesn't sound like abstract poetry. That sounds like betrayal. Real, personal betrayal. The tension in the air spiked. Sabrina's shoulders stiffened, her jaw tightening as though she might bolt from her chair altogether. Instead, she drew in a steady breath, her gaze narrowing to laser sharpness. You're right, Kelly, she said, her voice sharp as glass. Those lyrics are specific because they come from real pain. But here's what you're missing. I chose to put that pain into my music. Not into a televised interrogation. Not into a circus where I name names for the sake of cheap headlines. The audience leaned forward, phones recording every second of what had become far more than a standard daytime interview. Kelly, however, only pressed further, emboldened by the resistance. "But isn't that exactly what you're doing with your music?" she challenged. "You put the story out there. Millions are listening and drawing their own conclusions. Doesn't withholding the context only fuel more speculation and more damage?" Sabrina let out a laugh, sharp and humorless. "So what, you think I should turn my heartbreak into tabloid fodder just to make it easier for people like you to dissect me on national television?" "I'm saying," Kelly countered, her tone firmer now, "that when you put your private life into your art, you can't be surprised when people want the truth behind it. Your fans invest emotionally. They deserve to. No, if they're supporting someone who's being realer, someone spinning pain into a commercial product." The accusation landed like a slap. Sabrina's lips parted in disbelief, her voice dropping to a low, lethal register. "Did you just accuse me of manipulating my fans by writing about my own heartbreak? Did you just suggest that my actual pain is nothing more than some calculated move to sell records?" For the first time, Kelly hesitated. But instead of retreating, she doubled down with a misplaced confidence that instantly soured the air. "I'm not saying it's calculated, but when you package trauma as entertainment, there are ethical questions. Your fans believe they know ya, but you're only giving them half the story." The room froze. Then, without warning, Sabrina rose to her feet. Her chair skidded backward, screeching against the studio floor. Gasps rippled through the audience. Even the crew seemed paralyzed, sensing they were witnessing a moment that would replay across headlines for weeks. "You know what's actually unethical, Kelly?" Sabrina's voice rang out, hard and unshakable. "Inviting someone onto your show under the guise of celebrating their workingly to ambush them with gossip and speculation. What's unethical is implying that a young woman turning her heartbreak into art is somehow exploiting her audience." Kelly's face flushed crimson, but she pushed back, her voice rising. "Sabrina, you're overreacting. This is what interviews are for, to go deeper. If you can't handle people asking about the reality behind your art, maybe you shouldn't put it out there." Sabrina's expression shifted, then our fury cooling into something almost pitying. Her voice was calm now, but each word landed with devastating precision. "I came on this show because I respected you. I respected your authenticity. I respected that you built a career on honesty. But what you're doing right now, this isn't honesty. This is exploitation dressed up as curiosity." The silence was suffocating. Kelly bristled, leaning forward across her desk. "Exploitation? No. This is me giving your fans more than a scripted PR soundbite. They deserve more than rehearsed answers and deflection." Sabrina stepped closer, her voice steady, her fury sharpened into control. "My fans deserve better than seeing me ambushed for ratings by someone who claims to support women in this industry. They deserve better than watching me reduced to gossip bait on your stage." Every eye in the room was locked on the confrontation. Audience suspended between shock and awe, afraid to even breathe. The cameras kept rolling, catching every flicker of expression, every shift in posture, every word that crackled through the charged air. This was no longer an interview, it was becoming an event. Kelly rose from her chair, squaring herself at eye level with her guest, her voice sharp with accusation. "You can't have it both ways, Sabrina. You can't write songs that are obviously about real people, sing them to millions, brand yourself around honesty, then refuse to actually be honest when asked about it." Sabrina's jaw tightened, her words clipped and dangerous. A difference between artistic vulnerability and personal exploitation. Between sharing my truth through music and being forced to parade my private relationships for someone else's spectacle. Kelly folded her arms, both defiant and defensive. But everyone already knows what happened. The pictures, the timeline. How quickly he moved on while you were a wreck. The only person still pretending otherwise is you. The words landed like a blow. Sabrina's composure strained to the breaking point, finally fractured. You have no idea what happened. No idea what that relationship cost me, more what it took to shape that pain into music. You sit here acting like you know my story better than I do, based on gossip and paparazzi shots. Then tell us, Kelly shot back, her voice rising to match Sabrina's. Tell your fans the truth. No metaphors, no hiding. What really happened? For a moment, Sabrina just stared, her breathing ragged. Then, in a whisper that carried across the silent studio, she answered, "The truth is, I loved someone who couldn't love me back the way I deserved. The truth is, I gave everything to someone who treated me as disposable. I wrote those songs at 3 in the morning, when the betrayal felt like it was eating me alive. And the truth is, I turned that devastation into art, because that's what artists do. We turn pain into something someone else might cling to when they feel alone." Her voice gathered strength as she spoke, but Kelly's eyes glittered, unsatisfied, almost hungry. But who was it? Your fans want to know who hurt you. They deserve the whole story, not half-truths. Sabrina's face hardened, her disgust undisguised. You still don't understand. This isn't a scoop. This isn't content. This is my life, my heartbreak, my blood on the page. And you're treating it like gossip to juice your ratings. I'm treating it like honesty, Kelly snapped back. Like a chance to show your fans who you really are, instead of hiding behind rehearsed lines. Sabrina shook her head slowly, then smiled not warmly, but with the finality of someone who had made a decision. You want honesty? Here it is. This interview is exactly why young artists hesitate to be vulnerable. Because people like you twist our pain into entertainment. You demand we strip our art down to names and scandals, so your audience feels like they've stolen a piece of us that isn't honesty. That's exploitation. Kelly's cheeks burned crimson, though whether with shame or fury was impossible to tell. I'm giving you a platform, she insisted. A chance to control your narrative. No, Sabrina said flatly. You're trying to bait me into saying something viral. You're trying to turn my heartbreak into your headline. And I'm done pretending otherwise. Silence spread like a fog, suffocating the studio. Kelly opened her mouth to argue, but Sabrina raised a hand, halting her. When she spoke again, her voice was calm, even, but carried a weight that pressed against every wall in the room. You want to know the saddest part of this? I looked up to you, Kelly. I watched you win Idol when I was a kid, dreaming of being an artist. I thought you understood what it meant to be a woman carving out her truth in this industry. I thought you valued authenticity. But right now, you're no different from every other interviewer who thinks they're entitled to rip pieces of my soul out because I dared to share my art. Kelly's lips parted, but no sound came. For the first time, she looked small behind her desk. The studio audience sat in stunned silence, shoulders tense. Eyes darting like they were witnessing something private they were never meant to see. The cameras rolled mercilessly, capturing every twitch of muscle, every sharp breath, every unguarded flash of emotion. I put my heart into those songs, Sabrina said, her voice steadier now, rising with conviction. I put my pain, my healing, and my growth into that music because I wanted people who've been through similar experiences to feel less alone. But I did not pour my soul into those lyrics so people like you could twist them into tabloid fodder. Kelly finally found her voice, but it came out softer, defensive, stripped of its usual confidence. "Sabrina, I think there's a misunderstanding." I wasn't trying to. Sabrina cut her off with a disbelieving laugh, sharp enough to sting. "A misunderstanding. Kelly, you've spent 15 minutes trying to pry open wounds I've already bled dry. You accused me of being manipulative. You implied my art was dishonest. That's not giving me space. That's demanding I perform my trauma for your entertainment." The words landed heavy. The audience shifted in their seats. A cough echoed somewhere in the back row. Kelly's face flushed as she cycled through confusion, anger, embarrassment, finally landing on something close to panic. "I never said you were manipulating anyone." Kelly protested, but even she seemed unconvinced by her own defense. "Was asking fair questions about the inspiration behind your work?" "No," Sabrina shot back, stepping closer to Kelly's desk, her presence electric. "You were fishing for gossip. You wanted me to confirm rumors so you'd have a viral clip. You treated my heartbreak like public property just because I turned it into art." Kelly's hands trembled as she glanced toward the cameras, realizing, maybe, too late, how far off the rails things had gone. "Sabrina, maybe we should reset. Take a breath. Restart this conversation." But Sabrina was already shaking her head, resolute. "There's no restarting this. There's no undoing the fact that you ambushed me on national television and tried to strip mine my personal life under the guise of authenticity." The studio was so quiet now. The whir of the cameras was the only sound. Sabrina turned deliberately toward one of them, her gaze locking with the millions she knew would be watching later. "To anyone out there who has ever been heartbroken, who's ever been betrayed, who's ever felt like their pain was minimized or exploited, your story belongs to you. Your healing belongs to you. And you do not owe anyone more of your trauma than you're ready to share." She pivoted back to Kelly, who now sat small in her chair, eyes wide, searching for words that wouldn't come. "I came here to talk about my music, my tour, my growth as an artist. Not to have my private relationships dissected for sport. Not to be treated like my boundaries are less important than your ratings." Kelly's last attempt came out almost pleading. "Sabrina, please, let's just sit down and talk about your incredible music." But Sabrina was already walking toward the edge of the stage. She stopped, turned one last time, and delivered the line that would be clipped, shared, and replayed endlessly across social media in the hours to come. "Kelly, I hope someday you learn the difference between authentic conversation and invasive interrogation. Supporting women in this industry means respecting our boundaries, not bulldozing them for content." She glanced at the audience, her voice softening. "Thank you all for being here today. I'm sorry you had to witness this." And with that, Sabrina Carpenter strode off the stage. Kelly sat frozen at her desk, her face a mask of shock as the cameras lingered. The director finally cut to commercial, but it was far too late. The damage was done by that evening. The clip was everywhere, trending across platforms, sparking debates about interview ethics, celebrity privacy, and the razor-thin line between curiosity and exploitation. But in the studio, in that moment, there was only silence, and the echo of Sabrina's final words still hanging heavy in the air.